Matt, we're seeing a trend which is very much copper fasten now in elite rugby. The days of having five forwards and three backs on your bench are almost endangered. Ireland, the only team this whole weekend to go with a 5-3 split. So, as you said, France 7-1 today. You think it's a risk, and the Italians 6-2. 6-2 is almost customary now across the board.
Yeah.
You can see why the coaches do it. You think it makes perfect sense. You hate that they're allowed to do it.
Yeah, it's not the coach's fault. It's just become this thing that is incredibly discriminating against backline players. We want people of all physiques to play our game, because this is not just an international level. This is going down to other levels of the game. And the numbers are quite extraordinary. You think back in the old Five Nations, it was 40 forwards and 35 backs. It was that, and we've got an 8-7 split. That's exactly the way our game is now. If we look, we've got a graph coming up here that shows the numbers, and it's quite extraordinary. This is this weekend. So in the starting 15s, there's going to be 48 forwards and 35 backs. But look at the bench. 36 forwards on the bench and only 12. So this weekend, there is 84 forwards playing and only 47 backs. That's almost, as close to 100% as you could get. Now, that is not what our game's about. It is not the coach's fault. I understand the tactics, and I agree with the tactics, but World Rugby has to act on this. It's dangerous in so many ways. It's dangerous about concussions, bringing big, fit guys on the field. It's dangerous to our scrums at the lower levels of our game, and it is not bringing in the ethos of our game. It is going against what we want. We're going for brutality of scrummaging against the finesse. We talked about the beautiful torpedoes and used the word mystical on the torpedoes. Well, I love it so much. I'm going to steal it because it was just beautiful. But we're out of balance. The point is, it's a game that needs. Our game is always in the conflict of balance.
Yeah.
And with that, you can see with those numbers, that is completely out of balance.
If that was brought in a few years ago, I'd have been out of a job.
Well, there's that too. So dangerous at lower levels because?
Well, it's sort of. If you're, and I've seen this at lower levels of the game, if they've got a 7-1 bench at a lower level of the game and the other team doesn't have a strong forward pack, and you've got a tight head prop who's very fatigued late in the game, and you bring on 7 fresh forwards, we're dealing with spinal injuries again, and we don't want to get to that point. My generation dealt with that. I had a club mate who became a quadriplegic. I was there that day. It's seared into my heart. I don't want to see that back in the game. And this is a multi-levels while we're doing this. And we can't just think about test match rugby. We've got to think about the AIL. We've got to think about the lower levels of the game where people copy what they see from the big stage. I go back to Sydney. I see it in my club doing it. I see schools now bringing on fresh reserves. Like, we don't want to get to that point. And World Rugby needs to act for the good of the global game, not the good of an international team, but for the good of our game.
Okay, it's a grassroots point.
The numbers are just out of it.
Before we go, agree, disagree?
It does happen. I mean, regardless of the 7-1, it does happen a lot. Most games, you'll end up with a fit prop against a fresh prop against someone who's tiring at the later stages of the game, unless they make the changes at the exact same time. So I don't fully understand the argument around that. And I suppose the ethos of the game, there's 3 backs here sitting on the panel. So we love to see flowing rugby, skill set, footwork. But there's a lot of people, and actually I'm probably one of them as well, like to see 2 big men smashing into each other. Yeah. That is entertainment, and that is a part of the core of our game. It's a physical, confrontational game, and I loved it. I'm not a fan of a scrum, if I had my way, but I do like to see that physical collision. Yeah. That is a big part of our game.
Yeah, I think where it's hurting is not getting young backs exposure. If you have 3 backs on the bench, for example, and it gets to 60 minutes and you can bring on a young halfback partnership, that's a great learning for them. And if you have a 7-1 split, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to develop younger players and give them the exposure at the end of games to then give them the opportunity to start.
And point taken, but what about the safety point, and also it's not the essence of the game, that it's out of balance? Do you agree with Matt on that, or you're okay with where we're going?
No, I agree with Matt on it. Like, there is a safety element. There's tired players out there after 50, 60 minutes and you've got a fresh pack coming on. It has to be of concern.
Okay, interesting.